You're watching Oilers Nation Real Life.
Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard, and Stuart Skinner all got cut from the Four Nations faceoff team. That is bananas.
Craig Button last night noticeably rattled that Evan Bouchard was not on the team.
Really?
Saying it was incredibly short-sighted by them, that he... Talking about how great the Oilers defense has been recently. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Oilers fans that will argue him on that point. I kind of heard him say that. And I'm like, really, Craig? But he also mentioned about how offensive Evan Bouchard has been as they're playing the clip of him walking that guy. Carolina, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ottawa.
Sorry. Same colors. And then going top shelf. And you're just like, yeah, you know what? I get it. But then you look at the replacements. And I mean, the top four, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But who on the bottom three would you replace? 2 or 3? Because there's 7, right?
Yeah. Colton Parayko's not one of the 7 best defensemen.
And who's Travis? What's the other guy?
Sanheim from Philly. I think you can justify one of a Sanheim or Parayko to be like, no, good defensive conscience. Like, you need some of those guys. You can't just put a bunch of burners and puck movers. But both of them and Josh Morrissey, who I know is more two-way, but like, Sanheim and Parayko, and you went Morrissey, and then your second pairing's Theodore Pietrangelo, and you have Devon Taves. Like, I just think it's a little bit too old schooly.
Here's my question for you, and I didn't look this up because I wanted to talk about it on here as somebody who, I see what I see, but I don't delve too deep into things. Who made this team?
So the GM for this one is Don Sweeney, the Bruins GM, but he worked closely with Doug Armstrong, the St. Louis Blues GM, because Doug Armstrong's going to handle the Olympics next year. And John Cooper is the head coach. Bruce Cassidy, Vegas, is one of the assistants. So who made it from Vegas? Theodore Pietrangelo, and the goalie's Aiden Hill, even though he's been average this year. Who made it from St. Louis? Colton Parayko, whose contract they couldn't give away a couple of years ago, or last summer, whenever the trade rumors were going with him. Parayko made it, and Jordan Binnington's the goalie, even though he's sub 900 this season.
But why, if you're those teams, would you want your players in the Four Nations Cup susceptible to injury, susceptible to breakdown? I would think you don't put your players in it.
Because the players want to go.
They do?
Oh, yeah. Don't you remember in the 2014 Olympics when Steve Yzerman didn't pick Marty St. Louis? And that was like a massive thing. And it eventually led to St. Louis being like, I'm not playing for you anymore. They traded him to New York, right? He asked out. Like, there was a huge follow from that. And it's like pretty well reported that the reason St. Louis and Yzerman's relationship fell apart is because Yzerman didn't pick him for the Olympics. So I think if you're
Olympics, that was the Olympics. This is the Four Nations.
Do any of these?
But if the thinking is you got to go to this and show up for Hockey Canada if you want to be on the Olympic team.
So Pietrangelo, Colton Parayko, they both have managers, coaches that help put them on the team.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis clearly did something to us this offseason.
Yeah.
Do they hate us? Do these guys hate us?
I think Doug Armstrong might hate us.
I think they might hate us. Because no Hyman. I mean, I get it. His production's down. I get it. He's injured. I get that.
Tournament's not for 2 months.
Exactly. That was going to be my point. So I don't know. It's kind of starting to feel hated.
You want me to build you a Four Nations lineup, Chalmers? We got a little more old school. Let's get a Niedermeyer.
Yep.
Brodeur in net. He comes at all the events.
But that's like the best part about this Four Nation Cup rosters being leaked is my algorithm on Instagram is sending me like videos of the past of like best on best tournaments. Oof. A lot of videos of Eric Lindros being an absolute menace, like hammering and fighting. I don't think it's going to be like I can't wait for a best on best tournament. I've been wanting one of these for a long time. So I am going to be excited
Connor
for
and Crosby together. That's going to be awesome.
And Bedard, like, what is that a shock to us?
Bedard, no.
He's stone cold.
Yeah, he's been like, I think with Hyman, you can sit there and like, I'm looking at the numbers if you were to look at just Canadian born players over the last 3 seasons, the only ones who have scored more goals than Zach Hyman are Braden Point, Connor McDavid, Sam Reinhart, and Nathan McKinnon. If you go just in the last 2 years and shorten that, it's only McKinnon, Point, and Reinhart.
That's
so like
crazy.
Playoffs, he's had the most goals in the entire playoffs in the last 2 years. Even Evan Bouchard, in the last 2 playoffs, Evan Bouchard has 32 points. Second on the defensive rankings has 16. It's Miro Heiskanen. The next closest Canadian is Cale Makar at 15. So like how you left off these like proven playoff performers. Bouchard, I can like see the logic if you're like, well, no, Cale Makar is going to quarterback the power play. Bouchard's greatest asset is his power play. It sucks that he's the second best power play
Couldn't
quarterback.
he be PP2 then, though?
You
But
could.
and John Cooper, you say, is the coach?
Yeah.
And he's the Tampa coach right now.
And there's 3 forwards.
Sorelli
Hagel.
is better. These guys are better than Connor Bedard.
And Zach Hyman?
Potentially will be in 2 years or in 2 months. I mean,
The Bedard thing, like, you have a lot of top end talent. Like, my issue with Hyman isn't even necessarily that like he's miles better than like the guys they picked. It's that you have the clear cut duo of him and McDavid. It's a short tournament. You know, the chemistry will work. Run with them. Bedard, I think, is a little bit of like, okay, are you going to trust him with top 6 minutes when he's kind of as poor defensively as he has been to start his NHL career, which is fine. He's a young kid. He's learning. McDavid was like that too. But like, are you going to play him with McDavid or Crosby? Probably not. So then you're going to put him in your bottom 6. And I think they wanted a bottom 6 that was just more defensively dialed in than that.
am I correct in saying that the Team Canada has obviously what I consider to be like the 3 best hockey players in the world right now in McKinnon, Makar, and McDavid?
Yeah.
So our top end is really, really good, right? Like those 3 forwards are better than any other players on any other team. But the American is like roster is just fucking stacked. Man.
So good.
They are all good. Like there's no Seth Jarvis on that team.
And if you start ranking the American goalies, if you put all the American goalies and Canadian goalies into one pool and said rank them, you would probably be at goalie 6 or 7 before you get to a Canadian.
That's what's funny. And you said that Aiden Hill was like, average right now. But man, if you don't watch him all season, you don't look at his numbers and you watched how he played against us, that game was a lot of fun. That game was like high intensity. And he, as he does against us, stood on his head.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.